Good morning, everyone. I'm 7 weeks out from Vancouver Pro. Thought we'd do a little vlogging today as I'm doing a high carb day, and you can follow me along. But am I 7 weeks out? So this past week I've been pushing it a bit more aggressively, and I might do an earlier show. We'll see. I can see here I did some just posing in some natural lighting this morning. Just gives a really good accurate look at where condition is, and kind of can compare back to my previous preps. Here's a comparison to when I was 2 weeks out from the Atlanta Pro when I did 212 compared to now, and conditioning's slightly better now. I was tanner then. I haven't been tanning, so I kind of weigh that into the look. I don't know. We'll see. I might do something earlier, but kind of that's my process of comparing back on pics and trying to gauge condition where I'm at. So we'll see. I know there's a few shows pretty close coming up, but anyway, this week what I did was basically I had like a 3-pound rate of loss the previous week, and kind of gauging through my photos said, okay, this rate is pretty good. If I push it a little harder, let's see where I go to. The only change I made was adding in a little bit of clenbuterol. Diet stayed the same, which is 330 grams of carbs, 330 grams of protein, and about 50 grams of fat on my train days. Carbs dropped to 200 grams on my off days. 12,000 steps a day. No direct cardio. I've pulled that out just to manage fatigue. And through that, I came down to another 3 pounds, so which is a pretty fast rate. So what I'm doing today is adding in 100 grams of carbohydrates, all through rice, that it's just going to be spread out throughout my meals. So we'll push carbohydrate up to 430 grams for the day, and we'll follow along, and we'll see these meals and kind of what I do. And also it's leg day, so there's another reason of let me add this high carb day in. It's leg day, and also I want to slow down the rate of loss. Definitely not quite as full today, which isn't a justification for the high day. It's more so my rate is definitely moving quicker than what I would want to happen. So we'll add this day in, and that's kind of my preference in dieting, that I'd rather go more aggressive in a deficit and then add food in, versus have more food throughout the entire week and end up not pulling down enough. So as we get closer and closer to a show, we add in more high days and start lowering that deficit with more food. Anyway, let's jump into meal one. Okay, in the kitchen, we're here for meal one, and what we have is, for one, we're starting with 300 grams of egg white, 50 grams of spinach, 50 grams of asparagus, and I add in 150 grams of white rice to this. If you haven't done the eggs and white rice, it is delicious. And I don't know, Renee, is that kind of like a Asian? I feel like that's an Asian culture thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't put shoyu on it though.
Okay. But anyway, I don't put shoyu. I put habanero Cholula sauce on it, and some salt and pepper. Then with those, I still have my fiber tortillas. So even on high days, I just keep my fiber standardized across the board. That doesn't change. Then I have 70 grams of oats, and in this is also 20 grams of whey protein powder. And then finally, we have 30 grams of blueberries. And that will be meal one, which is actually also my pre-workout meal before legs. And I know for me, I can eat something like this and go train an hour later. It'd be completely fine. Usually it ends up being about an hour and a half later, but I can eat something fairly heavy and it has no impact. I actually feel better with something heavier on my stomach before training. Okay, we're getting into this leg session here, and before I do, I've mixed up my 20 grams of carbohydrate. This is just maltodextrin, so nothing fancy needed, and then also have 20 grams of aminos in this. So I'll start sipping on this slow, and I'll really start putting it down faster towards the end of the workout, where it really can feel the difference in it. And we'll jump into the session, kind of lay out. We'll fill some of the sets. So this won't be a full walkthrough of the training session day, but I'll at least give you some insight on what we're doing. For this session, so I made some slight changes just with trying to manage fatigue. This session was scheduled to have 6 sets of quads, 5 sets of hamstrings, and 2 sets of glutes. I just backed it down to 5 sets of quad work. So I've been starting with leg extensions first, Put some direct stimulus in quads where I don't have to use so much load on my squat movement. It just keeps me a little bit safer in the movement. Do 2 sets on leg extension. Then we moved over to the pendulum squat. So that is, on this day, I do a back brace squat pattern. Then I'll do a glute quad unilateral pattern. On my other leg day, I flip it. So I do the Rogers squat and then a leg press. So on the pendulum squat, this movement can really wreck my legs. This is the movement where I decide to pull back 1 set, just get 1 quality set in. I've actually been keeping about a rep in the tank on this one, just because if I do this earlier show, I need to make sure I can have adequate time allocated to posing and managing the fatigue side of the equation. So just did 1 hard set. Went on to hamstrings and did seated leg curl. I'm only doing a seated leg curl right now because I'm just kind of coming off a little tweak on the hamstring. I'm still going to leave out my RDLs. That's like loading fully stretched, and which is the most potential to have an injury there. So still train the hamstrings fully stretched, but just did all 5 sets on the seated leg curl. Then ended the session with my split squat, and this one's contralateral loaded. So I load the opposite hand of the working leg, so it creates a rotational force on the hip and having to use a lot of glute medius to stabilize. But also I'm really cueing hip back in the pattern. So it ends up being a lot of glute and some quad. So I count this as like some quad volume and some glute volume in place. And that wraps up the session. So it's something that like I get good stimulus. I've always connected really well with my leg movements, so it doesn't take a lot of sets to get that stimulus I need just to retain the tissue. But anyway, that wraps up the session. We'll jump in the car and I'll show you my meal too. Okay, made it to the car. Now post-workout meal. Just have my famous grandma bowl. This has been passed down through the generations of Jewetts. And it's filled with 90 grams of oats, 60 grams of whey, and then you'll see in here is also my 160 grams of white rice, and just mix that all in together, eat it on the way home. That is post-workout. Okay, we are at meal number 3, and this meal is pretty straightforward bodybuilding style. So back still, grandma bowl, and what this has in the bottom of it, you can't see it, is 100 grams of veggies. It's mixed veggies, so it's 50 grams of spinach, and I use 50 grams of a stir-fry blend. So it has like snap peas, broccoli, carrots, red bell pepper in it, some onion. Have that. Then from there is 250 grams of white jasmine rice and 170 grams of chicken. Now, these are my little chicken nuggets, which we've been chopping up our chicken breasts into like little tiny pieces and putting in the air fryer. And we use McCormick, Renee, what's the seasoning? Smokehouse maple seasoning, which is really good, but it definitely like leaves probably terrible for you with like this charring on the chicken, but it's really good. So have that, and then some J3U Polynesian sauce and a little bit of Dijon mustard on it. What's not weighed out here is my 150 grams of peaches with this meal, but I already sat down, and so we're filming it here. Meal number 4, we are about to chill on the couch and eat this meal. It's Friday, so it's gonna be a movie night. I think we're gonna watch The Edge of 17. It's a 2016 throwback with Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. High school comedy drama movie. Anyway, salad is what's on the menu for meal number 4, so I can chill on the couch and eat it. This is 200 grams of lettuce, has 3 cherry tomatoes in it. We also do in the pan skillet some zucchini, squash, onion, and garlic, and has about 70 grams of that, and 170 grams of chicken. For my dressing, still use J3U's Polynesian, some Dijon mustard, and yogurt. Also salt and pepper, and 1 packet of stevia. That is John's fancy dressing, if you ever want to try it. Then I also have another fiber tortilla that I cut into little pie pieces, and I put my lettuce on that, and is my delivery device for my salad. Well, this is part one of the meal. I eat this first, then I eat my carbs next, which you'll see that here shortly. We're back with part two of meal 4. And now, after starting our movie, The Edge of 17, I'm kind of regretful to feel like I'm watching a chick flick, and now you know about that. But don't get me wrong, I don't care. I'll watch it. I like it. It's funny. Just for some redemption, in case, for all my hardcore guys out there, that Renee and I, we did watch Fury Road, Mad Max, 2 nights ago, and we have our tickets for Furiosa for tomorrow to go see it at the theater. So, just so you know. But anyway, part 2 of the meal is my cake of rice cakes. So I do 4 just plain rice cakes because they're just fun and enjoyable to eat. And on top of them, I use naked PB powder, and you just mix it with a little bit of water. And if you don't have a lot of fats in your diet, you can get some really low calorie peanut butter, in a sense, peanut butter, quote unquote. Stuff spreads pretty far, so like 20 grams I'll use, and it goes across 4 rice cakes really well. And then I have 60 grams of blueberries with this meal, so this will be the part 2 to meal 4. All right, guys, end of the night. This is the final meal, which you've seen this meal before. It is the Ninja Creamy. So we have our Ninja Creamy, which is 35 grams away, about 240 mils of unsweetened almond milk, and some stevia. Pretty straightforward on that. Then I have my oat brownie, which 55 grams of oat powder, some baking powder, 6 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder, 35 grams of chocolate animal whey brownie batter, 30 grams of pumpkin, and what am I missing? I think that's it. And then, of course, we have some 0 sugar Hershey's chocolate sauce, and we found some good stuff at Walmart too. It's a calorie-free salted caramel that's really good. So we put those on them, and man, it's like I'm not even on prep. So that's why I look like I'm on prep year-round, because it's easy to maintain this kind of diet. But anyway, that rounds up the high carb day for today. And let me know any questions that y'all have below. We'll shoot another one and maybe give the update if I'm gonna do an earlier show or just ride it out to Vancouver, but soon to be determined. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.